What's good, beautiful people? It's your main man, Big G, here on Industry Talk, and welcome to Primetime Pod, the hottest information resource outlet for all things entertainment, breaking news, celebrity interviews, and the hot topics of the day. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms, our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, you name it, we're on it. Just Google us. Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime.
And he got prime time vibe. Make sure you check it
How? Why the fuck you think he missing? You say that.
out.
And second feels a whole lot.
Now I'm not trying to get a little messy with you.
Time is money.
They go trap.
What's good? What's good? What's good, beautiful people? It's your main man, Big G, coming at you all the way live. I'm in your space and I'm in your face, and I'm definitely blessed to be living for another day. It is March 19th, 2026, here in the great state of Mississippi. And yes, it's a little nippy, a little chippy, a little cool, but the weather is nice. It feels good out here today. Welcome, everyone who is participating in the live, who has joined the conversation for today. We have an exciting conversation that's coming down the pipeline. I've given you guys some insight. I've talked to you over the last week or so about it, bringing Mr. Vega into the space to talk about what he's been dealing with, what's been going on with him since 1988, being accused of murder, breaking and entering, and arson, and eventually through the Innocence Project, getting the opportunity to be released through the parole board, immediate release because of some issues, and we're going to get into that conversation with Mr. Damen Vega here about his life and what he experienced over in Greensboro, North Carolina. And of course, big shout out to my brother Terry Allred for making the introduction and this very impactful and powerful story that we're going to talk about and dig into today with Mr. Damen Vega as we review his life. And what one would have to say without question, individuals dealing with the corruption of a system, the corruption of a police department. And I can't tiptoe around it. I can't dance around it, because now we're also dealing with an individual who has had 27 years of his life taken away from him. From the start, he's professed his innocence. And I'm not here to try to convince you whether he is innocent or guilty. I just know that his story needs to be heard. And now I'm going to be biased, of course, because I've read all of the background information. I've done the research. I'm still, because I know, just like I've talked to Vega, it's going to take some time to unbox and unpack everything that's going on in this situation. It took years for it to all develop in terms of him getting released. So I know that I can't unpack everything in 1 hour. So we're going to have to do multiple interviews. We're going to have to do multiple conversations. He has a book that he's working on as well, with over 35 to 40 plus chapters that we're going to begin assisting Mr. Vega with. So like I said, today's conversation is going to be one for the books. It's something that I want all of you to pay very close attention to. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please shoot them to me. Hit it in the description. Hit it on the messenger. Send it to my email, whatever the case may be. If you have insight, if you have lawyers, if you have individuals that could possibly lend assistance in terms of what we're about to unpack and get into with Mr. Vega's story, let me know, because we're doing everything that we can to get this man fully exonerated and pardoned, as well as getting him into a position to where he can get compensated for being falsely accused and incarcerated for over 27 years of his life. What does that do to a man? What does that do to a woman? What does that do to an individual when you know every day you're behind bars that you didn't do what in fact it is that they have accused you of doing? We're going to get into it today, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, my good friend, comedian Jarrell Braswell, will be joining us here in just a little bit as well. We're going to jump off into the conversation. And like I told y'all the other day, y'all know I cut my hair just the other day. I know y'all see it. I know y'all looking at me like, damn, G, I mean, you just cut your shit the other day, man. Why is your shit looking goddamn all outside? I told y'all I have a full head of hair in the next day. I just cut my hair the other day. I know y'all know when I come out. You can go back on the videos and see when I cut my hair. My testosterone level is just extreme. I'm just telling you, ladies and gentlemen, my hair grows. I got to go get another hair. I got to go shave my shit again. I got to go take some time and shave my shit again. It's the winter time is over. I cut the bush off the other day, but I turned back around and look in the mirror and bam, salt and pepper is back in full effect. But enough about me. Thank you to everyone that has decided to join the live. Welcome to everyone on all social media platforms. That is Facebook, Instagram. I was about to say Snapchat. I don't even have Snapchat. I don't even know how to use Snapchat. I think I might have to jump into the Snapchat movement, but I'm not on it yet. Twitch, LinkedIn, and the like. We're across all of those different platforms. Thank you to everybody that has joined. Rob Lowe Escobars, my brother Rob Lowe Escobars. Let's get together. We need to talk. Need to chop it up. You've got a new website, a new Instagram site. I'm not sure what happened to the other one, but everybody, my man Rob Lowe Escobar has a new IG. Go tap in with my man Rob Lowe Escobars. Jonathan Shaw, big shout out to my man Jay Shaw out of Dallas. Thank you for joining the live. And of course, if you have not yet subscribe to Boss Talk Podcast 101, Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime, y'all need to do so. This one is for you. Stop what you're doing right now and go subscribe to Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime on YouTube, all social media platforms. Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to make sure you tap in. Right now, over 72,000 subscribers and well over 11 million views and watch time hours. So make sure that you continue to support, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and keep tapping in with us, because we're going to keep on bringing you this hot content every day and in every way. It's your main man, Big G. And make sure, like I said, stop what you're doing right now and tap in. Like, share, subscribe. Boss Talk Podcast 101 Primetime. Y'all know what it is. Make sure you tap in, lock us in, tell a friend to tell a friend. Welcome, everyone. If you are on the live, if you are paying attention, no matter where you are, no matter which platform you are on, I need you to share the live. This is going to be an awesome conversation today. We're going in depth with my man, Damen Vega, about his life, about his history, 27 years of incarceration, his release, and his continued contempt to let folks know that he was falsely accused, he was framed, and he served 27 years of incarceration for something that he did not do. We're going to get into it. We're going to unbox it today. We're going to unpack that today with Mr. Damen Vega. thank you for joining us. Let's have some fun today. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. So let's go ahead on and jump this thing off like we normally do. Today's jump off is real simple because we've all dealt with it. If you haven't dealt with it, well, just give it a little time and something's going to come up and bite you on your ass one of these days. But have you ever been in a situation where you know for a fact that you did not do something? You've been accused of doing something, and the rest of the world is adamant about that something that they think or they say that you have done. That's the one thing that pisses man off more than anything, to be accused of something that they did not do. Tell me if I'm wrong. That is the one thing that drives a man to the point of really wanting to hurt someone. To falsely accuse them of something that they did not do. And then to stick to the story, to drive home the point, even more so, to whereas you've convinced the rest of the world that you've done something that you did not do. You've been accused of this. So imagine being falsely accused of murder, being falsely accused of arson, breaking and entering, and of course arson to cover up the crime. And no one wants to believe that you're innocent. And from the time that you're arrested and find out that this is what they're charging you with, all the way up until you're released for the reasons that we're going to get into, you stood on the simple principles that you were innocent. Every time they came to you with a plea, every time they came to you, oh, well, we're going to give you life. We're going to give you 50 years. We're going to give you 20 years. We're going to give you 15 years. And every time they come around, you say, no, man, you're not going to hang some shit on me that I did not motherfucking do. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work that way. I'm not saying the conversation goes that smoothly, but I'm saying if in fact you did not do something, why would I take a plea? Why would I plead out to some shit to get a reduced sentence of time when in fact, hey man, you need to prove that I have done exactly what you said that I've done. All of the evidence, because in the court of law, it's without a shadow of a doubt. There is no reasonable doubt. Evidence has to match up. You can't just sit there and put something on someone and think that it's going to stick, although this is what has happened to Mr. Damen Vega. I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to bring him onto the platform and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to sit there and dig deep off into Vega's life. And just like I told him, in conversation, you're not trying to convince or prove anything to anyone, especially not me, but I still have to be a journalist. I still have to ask the tough questions. I still have to dig off deep into what it is that we're talking about to pull out everything that we can to assist you in your fight for true exoneration, to get a pardon through the state, put the governor, get them involved, and to make sure that people know for a fact, without any doubt, that you are in fact innocent of what it is that you were accused of and undoubtedly charged with, convicted of, and sent to a state penitentiary for over 27 years of your life. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage, and we'll be seeing Jarrell Braswell here in just a little bit as well. I'm going to bring to the stage Mr. Damen Vega to sit there and chop it up with us here. Let me see if I can bring him on in. What's going on, Mr. Vega? How you doing today, man?
Man, how you doing? I'm
Oh
doing
man, I
fine.
am fantastic. I am fantastic. Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for joining
Oh,
us.
you're more than welcome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I tried to give a little bit of insight about who you are, about what we're going to be talking about today, and in sometimes in my jump off segment, I go off on a spiel and I do a little soapbox about things. But the only thing I can really think about today is how disappointing and upsetting it is when I myself am accused of something and I know it's not true. So when Terry brought, and of course I'm talking about my man Terry Allred, when Terry brought your situation to me and said, "Hey, G, you need to talk to Vega because he's got a hell of a story, he's got a hell of a testimony." And then you started sending me your information. Um, I I I couldn't help but to want to bring you on to talk to you about who you are, what you've gone through, and what it is that we can do to bring some clarity to your situation, to bring some understanding about what you've gone through. So, in this interview, I'm going to ask some very poignant questions. I'm going to ask some things that you might not necessarily want to talk about, but at the same time, we're still wanting to get to the truth. Are we good with that, Mr. Vega?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start here. Let's let the people know who you are and where you're from.
My name is Damen Gerard Vega. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm 59 years old. I was incarcerated when I was 21 years old and came home when I was 49 with the help of the Duke University Innocent Project that was ran by Professor Newman out of Durham, North Carolina.
Okay. And so you spent most of your life in Greensboro, North Carolina?
Yes, I've been here all my life.
Okay.
I've
So
been
in Greensboro, did you have I mean, were mom and pops were in the house when you were growing up?
yes. My mom, she's always been here. I come from a good background, middle class
Okay.
background, and never wanted for
Okay.
anything.
Okay. So, you come from a good background. Greensboro is what okay, is that a rural area? Is it a city metropolitan type of area? What is Greensboro? What is Greensboro like?
Greensboro's a good place to live. It's like Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and Raleigh and Charlotte is like the surrounding areas around there. But you
Mhm.
know, it's a good place to live if you're doing the right thing.
Okay. So speaking of doing the right thing, you say you come from a good home. Where'd you go to high school?
Well, I went to Page High School and then ended up going to Dudley, and then eventually I went and got my GED.
Okay, so all right now, all right, we starting to go down that road.
Okay, let's go.
So yeah, you come from a good background. You got both the parents in the home, but if you shifting from high school to high school, obviously there was something going on. So what was happening? Why were you shifting from high school to high school?
Well, I went to training school at a young age. 14 years, 15 years old, came home when I was 16, went to Page High School and didn't like it, and ended up going to Dudley, gave them a different address. I wanted to go to Dudley, and that didn't work out because they found out I wasn't in that district. And I ended up getting incarcerated for breaking and enterings at that age, and ended up getting a 1 day to 5 year sentence, and did 8 months, 23 days on a 5 year sentence. I pleaded guilty and came home. And well, while I was incarcerated, I ended up getting my GED. And when I came home, had a probation violation in 1985, and 6 of the 9 years they suspended, they ended up giving me that for missing restitution payments. I didn't commit any more crimes. One restitution payment sent me back, and I did 2 years, 9 months, and came home in 1988. And 6 months later, I was being charged with murder.
Okay. Well, before we get there, there's a lot that has happened that has to that's giving me a little, little understanding of how Greensboro may view you, right? I'm talking about city officials, police officers, community. Um, because I'm not saying that you were a troubled youth, but it sounds like you were getting into some shit. If you breaking and entering, if you going to training school, if you're going to different gladiator academies, and you serving some time in these facilities, then there's some kind of criminal element there. Yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So it's
Well,
not like
and
you was a choir boy. It's not like you was a
no,
choir boy.
I wasn't a choir boy, but when I did that 1 day to 5 years and I got out and I was on 5 years probation, I never committed another crime. I just missed one restitution payment. And being that I was
Mhm.
had 9 years suspended, they activated 6 of that just for missing one restitution payment. So when I went back to
Okay.
court, they gave me 6 years, in which at that time it was the 1/8 law, and it's cut in half to 2 years, 9 months. And I had to do that 2 years, 9 months. But I never committed another crime.
Right. 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 Okay. So, in the eyes of the courts, in the eyes of, I guess, the probation officer, whoever the case may be, whoever you are paying that restitution to, I mean, they violated you because of that. Was there anything else going on, within that time frame to make them want to violate you? Or is it
No,
just the fact that, hey, I missed a payment? I mean, I understand you saying, hey, I wasn't committing any more crimes, but I mean, did you piss somebody off? Is there somebody in the district attorney's office that you rubbed the wrong way? Did you kick the judge's dog? I mean, what would make them want to violate you just for missing a restitution payment when all you have to do is just make that payment?
I can't understand that. To this day, I wasn't giving anybody any problems. That one restitution payment, I was in a motorcycle accident, and while I was in the hospital, that was the only time that I had missed that restitution payment. I had was able to get me a 1979 Mazda RX-7 from the settlement. It wasn't a big settlement, but I missed one payment, and they violated me. And it
Mhm.
wasn't any other charges that were brought up against me, just missing that restitution. But I couldn't understand it, but I went in front of one of the roughest judges in North Carolina, and he wasn't hearing it. That one restitution payment sent me back for 2 years, 9 months.
Okay. And so 2 years, 9 months, sitting down, you get out in 1988, right?
Yes, sir.
1988. You end up with a speeding ticket, right? You get arrested for a speeding ticket.
Yes, one or two speeding tickets, and
Okay.
I think it was one, and I didn't pay
Mhm.
it.
Okay. So there was a bench warrant. There was a warrant for your arrest for not paying that. Um,
Yes, sir.
and so now you get jammed up. They take you back to jail, right?
Yes,
Give
sir.
us, lead us into the bullshit that came down the pipeline next, because you thinking you're in jail for traffic violation. Talk to
Yes.
us about what happened.
And I got arrested that Friday, and usually the next day you'll go to a first appearance, but being that it was the weekend, you can't go until that following Monday.
Mhm.
But while I'm in jail, this guy comes up to me and he starts saying, "Hey man, me and you being investigated for a murder." And I said, "Man, get the hell out of my face. And I went and told Sheriff Corbett, I'll never forget it to this day, please move me out of here. Something's not right. I said, this dude has just asked me some crazy questions. I get moved. That following Monday, they come and question me. They take me over to the detective division and they question me and they start talking about a lady, Miss Lundy, that had been killed in my neighborhood. And I kept saying, man, I don't know what you're talking about. And they kept saying, we know you did it. And can you tell us what happened? I said, man, I don't have nothing to say to you. And I said, just let me call my mom. And when I called my mom was saying, don't you talk to them. Don't you tell them anything until you get a lawyer. And I said, Mom, I didn't do it. And what they have me saying is, I haven't told them anything. And they tried to use that against me down the road, but I was just letting my mom know I'm not talking to them. I don't have nothing to say to them. Well, they charged me with first-degree murder. And when they took me back over to the jail, the hardest thing that I ever had to do was tell my mom that I was being convicted of first-degree murder. And to this day, it still hurts me, man, to have to tell my mom that.
Right. So because your mom didn't understand what was going on at the time, right? But obviously somebody went to the house, investigators went to the house looking for you, or whatever the case may be, to do some more investigation on the situation, and then you had to face your mom and say, "Hey, man, this is what I'm being charged with."
They never came. They never came to my house. This all happened while I was in jail.
While you was in jail.
They never stepped foot at my house or nothing looking for me. This happened when I was in jail, when this guy, Sammy McCullum, came up to me and made that comment.
Mm-hmm. And so you're going to tell us who Sammy McCullum is, but what is your relationship with McCullum, with Sammy? What was your relationship with him? You say he was just your cellie. So how does it go from you coming in for traffic ticket to now Sammy McCullum coming to you talking about, hey man, we're being investigated for murder?
I think they planted him in there because down the road they found out that he had been involved in several other unrelated murder trials, and he testified against a guy named Keith Miller and a couple other guys, and we were able to prove that in court, that he was promised leniency to testify against me and several other people when he stood up in court and said that he was never promised anything.
So, okay, before we get into that, because that's the tricks, some of the tricks that prosecutors play, jailhouse snitches, doing things to cut their time, to get leniency on their own time. But let's back up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
When you finally faced your mom and had to tell her what was going on, what was going through your mind? Because of course, obviously you're confused right now. You don't know what's really happening. But when you had to sit down and face your mom and tell her, hey, this is what's going on, what was going through your mind at the time? Because I'm sure you can remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I told her, I said, Mom, this ain't no joke, what I'm getting ready to tell you. I said, but they're getting ready to charge me with first-degree murder. And I told her who it was and everything. And I was told by my aunt, Erlene Schaffner, that she had passed out. It really hurt her real bad. They say her hair turned gray overnight when I had told her that.
Wow. But the crazy thing here also is that you knew the Lundy family. You knew,
yes, I did.
Valena. You knew Rodney, the son, the daughter of Valena. You used to cut the grass.
Yeah.
So how that impact, knowing that this is a community member, knowing that you guys come from a tight-knit community, and for something like this to happen, what kind of impact did that have on your family, on your family dynamic? You know what I'm saying? What was was the feeling that you were getting and seeing, and what was happening um as this crazy story is being told about you, as these lies are being spread about you?
My mom came up there to the jail and she said, I want you to look me in my eyes right now. And I want you to tell me, did you kill that lady? And I said, no, Ma, I didn't. And she said, I believe you. She
Mhm.
said, I know when you lying. She said, but I believe you. We're going to try to figure
Okay.
this thing out. That's what she said.
Mhm. Okay.
But it had a
So
very bad,
yeah, go ahead.
but it had a very bad, it really put something on my family and it really hurt them very bad.
I can imagine so. Because this is Lundy was an older lady at the time, right?
Yeah, she was like a second mom to me. Not only did I cut their
Right.
grass, I used to go play the synthesizer and listen to music with her daughter, Belina. And Ronnie, he wasn't there all the time, but back in the day, we used to call each other brothers and twins because we looked so much alike, you know. And, you
Mhm.
know, that family was always good to me. I could go over there, chill, sit, go to sleep if I wanted to on the couch.
Mhm.
Miss Lundy, you know, she was a very sweet person.
Okay, so now let's get into the day, because um you had gone to Lundy earlier that day and either did some work, requested some money, but you were at the house earlier that day. Yes?
Yes, sir. I was there like 6 hours earlier,
Okay, you were
and it
there
was
6 hours earlier.
daytime, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was daytime, and people in the neighborhood they saw when I had went there, and I was with a guy named Theodore Fewell. He was in the car, and when I went to get $15 from him, and we left, and we went to the
Mhm.
other side of town to drink beer.
Okay, did you go inside the house?
No, I was at the door.
Okay,
It
so
was just
that
grab.
so
I
so
grabbed
there
the
would be
money she gave me. I grabbed the money that she gave me and gave her a hug and jumped back in the car and we left.
okay, so there wouldn't be any evidence of you going inside the house. I mean, you wouldn't have any palm prints, fingerprints, or anything in the house outside of maybe from past experiences going inside the home. But from that day, you know, there's nothing that you would have actually touched or gone in or nothing along those lines, right?
No, sir. I didn't go in
Okay,
the house or anything. The only thing I did was ring the doorbell, gave me the money, and I
okay,
left. That
okay.
was
So
like,
now, yeah, go ahead. I want to hear what you're saying. Go ahead.
yeah, that was like around 7 or 8. It was still daylight time then. It was around
Okay.
8ish, somewhere around that time.
And then walk us through everything that started to snowball from that point. Because you say, a few hours later, the next thing you know, you getting locked up, or
Yeah, it
not
wasn't a
locked
few
up,
hours
not
later.
locked up. You come home, you come back to the neighborhood, and you see that there's a fire, or there's a neighborhood fire going on. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, yeah, I can tell you exactly what happened. I left and went back over to other side of town on Phillips Avenue with Theodore. Um, we sat around. I was messing with this girl named Cheryl Corpening with a brother named Chris Corpening, and I hung over there to probably about 1, 2 o'clock. And as I left and made my way down to a place they call the Jubilee Tree and hanging in Woodmill Park, I ended up getting in a fight with this dude. I'm not gonna lie to you. I told him that I got jumped by a bunch of guys, but I got in a fight with this dude named John Page. He tried to come on to me, and we got in a fight in his house. And he knocked me over the coffee table, and it was a picture frame that had failed, and my foot went halfway into it. And after I left, my Uncle Bobby stayed right down the street, and I hopped over there. I could barely even walk. And my uncle asked me, he said, "Man, do you want me to take you to the hospital?" I said no, because I was scared that that man was going to call the police on me. I said, "Just take me home." So my Uncle Bobby drove me home, and he used to work at the Guilford County Jail doing work there, but he took me home. And when we pulled up, we witnessed a fire, and I hopped around two houses. I'm like a house to the corner of RB Court. That one house past that, I hopped right there, and there was a bunch of people outside, and it was a guy named Howard Penix that was staying out there. And I was like, wow, man, I was just over there earlier today, and we seen fire trucks, a bunch of people standing around. I ended up leaving after that and came home, and my mom, she helped me dress my foot. And well, of course, we could see that Miss Lundy's house was on fire. And I even told my mom that I had been over there earlier, and that was like 6 hours later when we had noticed the fire in the neighborhood.
Okay. So now you say you got into a scuffle. You had to get your
Yes.
foot dressed, you know what I'm saying, because you got scratched up and you got some marks on you and all this kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
According to some of the police records, Lundy had skin and blood under her fingernails from a
Yes,
struggle.
sir. Yes, sir.
So is that one of the things that led police to citing you as one of the main suspects in this situation? Or was there another reason why you got entangled? Or was it just because of the McCullough fellow saying that you were involved in the situation? Make me understand how you got involved into Lundy's murder situation. Because
I
now
think
because let me say this first, because now people have to visualize, okay, all of a sudden this happened to this woman, but now you're coming back with marks, bruises, emblematical of a struggle. Don't know
yes,
who or what,
yes,
but at the same time, your uncle can justify, hey man, I know he got into a fight with this guy. The guy that you got into the fight with, the one that came on to you, can justify, yes, I got into a scuffle or a fight with this guy. But from the outside looking in, wait a minute, man, you've been to this house, you've got scratch marks on you. We don't know if it's from a fight or if it's from a woman, that is fighting for her life. So please make me
yes.
understand, how we get
I
to.
think I became a suspect when, after this, here I am in the neighborhood with my shirt off and still asking people, can I cut their grass? And my next door neighbor, Betty Brown, she seen scratches on me. And I ain't gonna lie to you, she said, "Damen, what you doing with them scratches on you?" And the little player that I used to be, I said, "Betty, you know how the women love me." And I left. So I didn't know that detectives were going around the neighborhood asking questions. I didn't know that this Miss Lundy had scratched somebody, but the whole time I'm around with my shirt off. And I guess that's how I became a suspect. But it came out in the newspaper how she had been killed, and what had happened. And then like a week later, I go to jail, get arrested for that speeding ticket, and that's when that guy came up to me. And right after I had asked to be moved from the jail cell, he called the detectives and told them that I had told him I didn't mean to kill that woman, and everything he wrote on his statement had been written in the Greensboro Daily News. His story matched exactly what was said in the Greensboro Daily News.
Okay. And Miss Lundy had been suffocated. Yes.
Yes, she was strangled from the
She was
newspaper
strangled.
articles.
That's right. That's right. And I don't have to go into the the details of what happened with the murder, but at the same time, the house was broken into. She was killed, obviously, and the house was set ablaze to coincidentally cover up the crime.
They didn't say that that house
So
was broken into. They said that
mm,
whoever done that, she had let them in.
mm, okay, okay. So as we're going down this line, right? How do you end up in jail? And now they picked you up
Not
for
paying
tickets.
no.
They picked you up on the warrant for
Yeah,
tickets, or okay,
that was it.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
they never come here about a murder or anything. It was just some
Mm,
unpaid parking tickets. And
okay.
I'm thinking I was gonna get out that following Monday, and this when this all this other stuff transpired.
Okay. So now let me ask you this. You got picked up from the house or you got picked up on the road driving? How did you get picked up for unpaid parking tickets? Because normally that's a warrant. They're not going to send police out
Yeah.
to come get you. So what they normally wait till they catch you in a traffic violation. Oh, run your license. Oh, okay. Hey, Mr. Vega, we got a warrant for your arrest. Get your ass out the car. So how did this evolve?
No, they came to the house and told me that I had some unpaid parking tickets. I think speeding tickets, and that was it. And I'm
Okay.
thinking when I go down there, they just gonna let me sign a release form because it's just a misdemeanor.
Right.
But they put me on I think it was a $400 or $200 bond. And at that time, I couldn't make it. I said, well, I'll just wait till Monday and they'll let me sign my own bond and I'll come on back home.
hmm hmm Okay.
But
So
I ended up getting charged with first degree murder and was told
okay.
that I
So
was facing the death penalty.
right, right. So let's talk about it, man. Let's get bring me up to speed with what takes place once you found out that they're charging you with first degree murder.
Man, I was devastated, man. And
hmm
I ended up staying in jail for a whole year. But during that process, they appointed me a public defender, David Dansby and Romalis Murphy, and they kept saying, "Man, they got to have something on you, man. We know how the judicial system is, man. You know, is it something that you ain't telling us?" And I just kept telling them, man, I didn't do this, man. I said, I'm telling you the truth. They said, man, you facing the death penalty, man. Tell us, man, and maybe we can try to help you. I said, man, I done told you that I did not do this. And then as time moved on, they came up and they took SBI lab reports, fingerprints, palm prints, hair and blood, and then they found out that that didn't match to me. And still they kept saying, well, we got something, we got a surprise witness and to the time that I went to court, I didn't find out it was that guy that came up to me and said, me and you being investigated for a murder. But during that time, they came at me and went from the death penalty to second degree murder. And then while going through trial, they came at me with 35, then came with me with 25, and the last offer was 15 years. And I said, no, I'm not taking it. My mom came and talked to me. She said, Damon, I know how the judicial system is. Please go ahead and take that plea bargain. My daughter, Amari Vega, she was getting ready to be born while I was in jail, and my girlfriend was telling us she was real religious. God's gonna set you free, and I was just going through all kind of emotions, but I couldn't sit here and tell them people and get up in that courtroom and say, "I'm sorry, I did this," because I didn't. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have took that 15 years because it would have been cut in half to 6 years, 9 months. I would have went to prison and worked in the kitchen, and I would have been out in 3 years. But I never did take it. And I ended up getting a 50-year sentence, a 40-year sentence, another 40-year sentence. And they ran those two 40s into one. And I ended up with a 50-40 consecutive sentence, which would have made my max out date 2035. And this was in 1989.
Okay. Now through all of this process, and we're talking about the jailhouse snitch situation, whether you have
Yes,
um, pro bono, whether you have a paid lawyer or you have a public defender, whatever the case may be, they still have to file the motion of discovery, and that information has to be revealed to you in terms of who's saying what. That process never took place.
we didn't know until they put him on the stand. He got up there and I was shocked. I was totally shocked. If I didn't know that I didn't say nothing to him, his story, I could have believed because everything he said was matching everything that was in that newspaper, and it made it look like I talked to him. I know the police department told him, and that prosecutor, Gary Goodman, I know they made a deal with him. I know they told him what to do. And what's so crazy about it, my next door neighbor, and she's still living right now, Miss Taylor, she was out there that night when she seen a dark-skinned man running from the scene of the crime, and she told him about it. I started studying law, and I filed a motion for appropriate relief, and I sent it in. And Gary Goodman said, even if it was a lady stating that it was a dark-skinned man running from the scene of the crime, this still wouldn't have a bearing upon your innocence and guilt. So I just kept fighting and fighting. I found out that the indictments was not a true bill. They was written up wrong. And then I tried to shoot it back into the courts. They denied me. And they said I exhausted all my remedies. And that's when I reached out to the Innocent Project.
Okay, so before we get into the Innocence Project, because now we're talking about the folks at Duke University working on your
Yes, sir.
behalf to fight for your innocence, right? To find the
Yes, sir.
truth. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, if in fact, the prosecution is saying, or the police evidence that was found at the scene of the crime, blood on the fingernails, underneath the fingernails, palm prints, and different things that don't match up to you, hair samples that don't match up to you. Where did this shit go? When it was time for it to be presented for your release, where did this shit go? Or to prove your innocence or guilt, where did this evidence go?
They had the evidence in the courtroom. They had the fingerprints, palm prints, did not match to Damen, Vega. The blood was O, mine was A. The hair was coarse, mine was curly. And that's when they brought Samuel McCullum in there and put him on the stand.
So you
got
hung by a jailhouse snitch. I mean, none of the evidence matched up. So there's not even circumstantial evidence. There's no evidence.
There was no evidence. It was nothing to link me to this. Nothing but his testimony.
Okay.
Hey, and what's so crazy is they send the jury out the room, and then they confront Sammy and had documents that they said, read this and read this silently. Now we're gonna ask you, were you promised anything to testify against this man? He said, no, I wasn't. They said, well, read this document right here. Okay, Mr. McCullum. Now we're gonna ask you again, were you promised anything to testify against this man? He said, yes, I was. And then he said, yeah, you were, and in several other murder cases. And he admitted it, but they made the jury leave out. And then after he made that comment, they brought the jury back in, but that was something that the jury needed to hear.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna play something and we're gonna get into this conversation. But I need to play this just to give our audience, and welcome everybody. Thank you for everybody that has joined the live and is paying attention to what we got going on today with Mr. Damen Vega. This is some insight from the other side of the table, folks that were fighting on your behalf about information. There's some information that actually was researched and beat around, and like I said, it still leaves a lot of questions, but I have to play this so that we can get into it and unpack it. I want to unpack it with you while we're talking about it here. So
Yes.
let me bring this up right quick, Vega. And I'm going to label this "If you know, you know." This is just another one of our segments. If you know, you know, and of course you know. And I'm trying to pull it out of you in terms of what's going on.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Hagelberg from the News and Record. This is Taft Wireback, our investigative reporter, and we're here to let you know about a series that's going to start on Sunday. It's a 3-part series Taft wrote, and it's called Three Murders, How Many Killers? It's a murder mystery really about the deaths of 2 women and 1 man over 6 months in the same neighborhood in 1988 and 1989. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, as you said, the series is about 3 murders that occurred in East Greensboro during a 6-month period in the late 1980s, and the 3 men who were convicted in those cases. It also focuses on the work of the Duke University Law School's Wrongful Conviction Center and questions that the clinic has raised about whether in 2 of those murders the wrong men were convicted, and whether the Greensboro Police Department adequately considered the possibility that all 3 of these murders may have been committed by one person, the man who confessed to the last of the 3 murders, Christopher Bernard Cavanis.
Now, one of these folks was pretty well known at the time, correct?
Of these 3 cases, the one that the public probably knows the most about, because it's been in the news most recently, is the murder of North Carolina A&T professor Ernestine Compton at her home on Pickard Street in July of 1988. It's a crime for which a neighbor, Lamont Armstrong, was convicted of and sentenced to life in prison for. The case was in the news most recently when Armstrong was exonerated and later pardoned after the palm print of another man was found at the murder scene in 2012, almost 25 years after the murder.
You got to wonder what people were thinking at the time in the neighborhood, and also what investigators were thinking. Did they think they had a serial killer on their hands?
There's some indication that in the summer of 1988, when these first two murders occurred, that they looked at the possibility that the police looked at the possibility that the 2 crimes might be linked, but later they went on and pursued them separately as separate investigations, and never made a link between them.
Well, you've done a lot of reporting here and talked to a lot of people, including some of the people who are now free for these murders. Do we pretty much know who's responsible for what at this point?
We know that Christopher Cavanis killed his father in January of 1989, the last of the 3 murders. He confessed to that, pleaded guilty, and spent 18 years in prison for it. We know that Lamont Armstrong did not kill Ms. Compton because he's been exonerated and received a full pardon. Damen Vega, Greensboro resident, had been convicted of the murder of Carolyn Lundy, also in that neighborhood, but professed his innocence throughout the court proceedings, and after he was found guilty, and has continued that profession through to the present. And the clinic is continuing to pursue an appeal on his behalf to try and clear his name.
Well, the details are fascinating and the story is fascinating. You can read it in the News and Record beginning on Sunday, and you can also access it at greensboro.com and take a look at photo galleries and videos associated with this. We hope you'll join us. Thanks for listening.
Okay, Brother Vega.
Yes.
Talk to me about who those two individuals are. Not who they were, but who they
Lamont
are.
Armstrong was a teacher at A&T State University, and he also taught Chris Cavanis. And Chris Cavanis used to work right up the street at the little general store where I live at, and we all used to play together.
Okay. So are they saying that Cavanis could possibly be a suspect in the situation?
Yes, and that's why they wanted that evidence, because after Lamont Armstrong was exonerated, they wanted to get my evidence to test against those fingerprints and palm prints that were left in Miss Lundy's house.
And
And all of a
then
sudden, the
once
evidence disappeared.
it disappeared, right? That's what I was getting towards. Because they couldn't find the evidence, and through what I was reading, they stated that a destruction order had been ordered for the destruction of old, not just yours, but old evidence that was in storage. But tell me the reason why they should not have destroyed the evidence, because obviously that's what actually happened, or something along those lines. It's been misplaced, it's been misappropriated, it's somewhere where we can't find it. So tell us what's going on with that particular situation.
That was done deliberately, because anytime you
Okay.
plead not guilty in the judicial system, your evidence is held on file in case you do file any kind of motions or appeals. So they will have something to try to come back at you with, to fight you back with. I never pleaded guilty. I pleaded not guilty, and that evidence had been in that evidence rooms forever. And when the time came for when they were going to get it this time to see if those prints matched to Chris Cavanis, because both of the murders only happened a half a mile apart, and basically the two women were killed basically the same way. But when Professor Newman sent her law students down there to obtain the evidence, it couldn't be found, and they tore that evidence room up. And then they see an illegible signature, couldn't tell who it was signed from, to be destroyed.
Okay, so normally that would come from a court or from the captain of the office at the police department.
Yes.
Because I can't just see an investigator saying, "Hey, just go destroy evidence." It's got to come from a superior, and definitely it's got to come from a court in order for that to happen. So now,
I really believe that if Detective Hill wouldn't told the SBI to not check the database on the AFIS search to see who
on
those
APHIS,
prints
right?
match to, yes, if he told them, and it's in the newspaper, not to seek any further to see who those fingerprints match to, they just let it go.
Now, with all of that happening, and of course the Innocence Project working basically on your behalf at this point, how long have you been sitting down leading up until the time that Duke University Innocence Project said, okay, let's take this on? How long had you already been sitting down before you got involved with those guys?
Probably on my 18th year, because each year they appoint you two different student lawyers to investigate your case, and I had went to probably 3 or 4 prisons, and they were still investigating my case and trying to get me freed and get me released.
Okay.
But and
Um,
what happened was how this came all about. I wrote to the Innocent Project, and at that same time, Lamont Armstrong was writing to the Innocent Project. They looked at both of our stories and said that the similarities were really great and it was very compelling. And the Innocence Project, they will only take your case if they believe in you 100%. And that's how I came about to where they had took my case.
okay. And we're happy that they did. But now let's get into what happened after that. Because Armstrong got released, he was exonerated through DNA, whatever kind of information that they found to actually release him. And so what happened with your particular case and in your situation? Because we've already talked about, the destruction of evidence. We've already talked about a jailhouse snitch sitting there fingering you or pointing you out as being an accomplice in this situation. So how do we get to the point to where it's now the Innocence Project believes that you're innocent? They're picking up your situation, and now we can't find any evidence when we go back to talk to the courts, investigators, and inevitably the parole board releases you. Walk us through that.
Professor Newman had my family and friends and preachers. They all had written letters, about they feel that I should be released. And a lot of them felt that I did not commit this crime. And what Professor Newman did, I had kept getting denied every time I came up for parole, because every time I came up for parole, they would be in this room and they would ask me about the crime. And I said, they would ask me, well, go ahead and tell us what happened. I said, I can't tell you what happened, but I can tell you what they accused me of and what they said. And then they'll tell me to step out, and 5 minutes later, call me back in there and deny me. So what Professor Newman did at Duke Law, she took everything that I had accomplished in prison, which I only had 9 write-ups out of 27 years. She took that in front of the parole board, and they said that, well, what we're going to do, we believe this. What we're going to do is we're going to give him a MAP contract for 3 years and send him to minimum custody so he can readjust back into society. And they sent me to minimum custody immediately. And then I went on work release until I came home. And the day I came home, it was news reporters and everything out there. They took me to Bob Timberlake's, gave me a homecoming, and come to find out that I couldn't be exonerated because they said that I had to be proven innocent only through DNA, that the state labs was not enough.
Okay, so you're telling me right now that you are home from prison after 27
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
wrongfully convicted,
yeah.
but still, and of course, the Innocence Project did everything that they could to prove your innocence. The parole board, because of whatever reason, lack of evidence, or the destruction of evidence, or for whatever reason that they've decided, okay, because I'll need you to make me understand clearly why they let you go or why they let you out. If in fact the courts had already cast judgment and say that you were guilty, but because of the work that the Innocence Project did, because of the letters that have been written, even though, there was a destruction of evidence, now you're being released, but you're not being released as a free man, you know what I'm saying? And hey, we need to rescind what we did, and you being exonerated and pardoned, and compensated for for the false accusations and for false imprisonment. No, they just released you. So explain to me how that happens, because we got to get into that part of it, because that's where the
They
meat and
convinced.
potatoes of this situation is. We haven't even unboxed 27 years of you sitting down in prison, the shit you had to go through in prison. We ain't even talking about that yet. What we're talking about is the fact that evidence was destroyed. There was some corruption in the police department. Obviously, there's a jailhouse snitch that's involved. None of the evidence matches up to you. But
Yes, sir.
now the parole board is saying, because of all of this has taken place, we can't pin any of this to you outside of this man's word, McCullum. So now, okay, fuck it. We're just going to let you go. I mean, make me understand how that happens.
They presented the state lab reports. They presented who that they were suspecting in the Armstrong case, and they felt that if they could have were able to get those that evidence out of the police department, the evidence room, that they would have been able to compare those to Chris Cabinet's. And basically those state lab reports, it weighed heavily on the parole board making their decision.
Okay. All right. So the evidence that they did have, which proves your innocence, the parole board
Yes, sir.
evaluated that information, and that information was enough to say, you know what, hold up. Due to a lack of evidence against you, we have to release you.
That's what happened. They released me.
Okay, but how can they release you without expunging the felonies that they put onto you? I mean, we're talking about first degree murder. We're talking about arson. We're talking about, so these aren't, this isn't goddamn breaking and entering. This isn't goddamn stealing a piece of candy out of the candy store. No, this is murder. So
Yes,
for
sir.
a parole board to come back and say, you know what, hold on a second. We made, not to say that they admitted that they made a mistake, but obviously there's something going on here that's hinky, that's not right. And we're not just going to hold you because the Innocence Project has brought enough evidence to the table to get you released. But why wouldn't they exonerate you and pardon you completely from the situation? Make me understand that, Vega.
They said only through DNA that I would have been able to get exonerated. And being that the evidence just magically disappeared, that I won't be able to get compensated or exonerated. So what they did was put me on 5 years probation and told me I had 5 years to fight for my innocence. But once I finished probation successfully, which I did, once that was over in 2020, I couldn't fight it no more. And before that, I went to a David Pishko out of Winston-Salem, a top attorney, and he said, I'm very familiar with your case, Damen Vega, but unless we find that evidence to be tested for DNA, there's no way that you can be exonerated. I said, but y'all have the state lab reports. That's just as good. It can convict you. Then why can't it have an effect on me being able to get exonerated? He said, son, I know your case very well. I was there the day that you got out. But I'm sorry to tell you, there's nothing that I can do.
Wow. So now we're dealing with a situation, even after sitting down for 27 years, you're still dealing with a state of incarceration because of the charges that are hanging over your head right now, because of the felonies that are hanging over your head right now. When you go to apply for a job, when you go to, do anything, when you, whatever, however you move, that's always going to follow you. That's always going to come up. Then you have to explain yourself. And then once you explain yourself, hell, the first impression is already there. What they see is what they see is a convicted murderer. What they say is an individual who committed arson to cover up a crime, so to speak. So you already, even though you've been released because of your innocence, you're not really being considered innocent because of a hang up with DNA. So how
Yes, sir.
do you carry yourself in your life moving forward? I mean, 27 years sitting down and now moving forward. How is that impacting your life, Vega? I mean, how are you getting along without that clearing of your name? Because we all know that good news don't travel as fast as bad news. Bad news gonna reach around the world in an instant. The good news of, hey man, Vega's home. We know that he's innocent. He didn't do it. You still have community members that are looking at your side eye like, man, nigga, we know you killed that woman.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Um, I'm going through it now with trying to get jobs and being denied. That record comes up, man, and I don't even get a call back.
Yeah.
I'll put in the application, and one of my friends try to help me get a job, and that came up, and I didn't get it. And
Right.
one time I actually tried to go back because it was hard for me to cope out here. And I had actually one time it got so bad I had threw an ashtray through the police hub and told them to take me back to jail. And when I went back, one of the ladies came up there to talk to me, and she said, "Do you really want to go back to prison?" I said, "No, ma'am. I just need some help trying to make it out here." And they released me.
Right.
They were Duke
Um,
University alumni that was talking to me, and they got me released.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a part of it though. That's where anyone that's been falsely accused and put into a situation like that, the state knows for a fact that even if you've been found innocent, just across the board, the stigma of what is on the jacket that you have on you at this point, or the felony record that follows you, even if you've been exonerated, pardoned, and record has been expunged. The fact that people know who you are, the people know the story, they know how the tragedy in itself and what surrounded it, it's always going to have that negative connotation that walks with you. That's where that compensation package comes into play for individuals that go through
Yes, sir.
what you've gone through, so that because they know it's going to be just difficult for you to get a job. It's going to be impossible, damn near impossible, for you to walk into an establishment and say, hey, I'm Damen Vega. I'm looking for a job. Here's my resume. And when it comes down to that little check marks, are you a convicted felon? You check yes. Then they're going to ask you, okay, for what?
Yes, and even though they have these places that say they hire felons, when I have to put down what my convictions are, they look at that funny too.
Yeah, of course. And it's
And
not that they're
since I've
looking
been
at it. It's
home,
not that they're looking at it funny. It's that they're not trying to have liability for their organization. I'm telling you what it is. It's not that they're looking at you as though you can't do the job. They don't want to sit there and take the chance of, hey man, something happening on the job, and then you come up and something tragic happens. Now the liability falls on that business for hiring you, and they know that,
yes,
hey
sir.
man, you're capable of X, Y, and Z. Although in your case, that's not your situation. That wasn't you. So now let me ask you this. Did we have any along the way? Do we have any bouts with addiction, with drugs, any, depression? I mean, what was going on, along the way, man? In prison, post prison, before, after, what was going on with Damen Vega in his life? I mean, what were you dealing with? Because you
When I,
said it was hard for you to cope with the
yeah,
situation. So make us understand.
when I came home, I developed I had PTSD. I couldn't stand for nobody to walk behind me. When I did get a job, every time somebody would walk behind me, I would jump. That job wouldn't last long. I couldn't go down the
Yeah,
highway. I'm driving 45 and I had to pull over because I'm thinking everybody was going too fast. And then I had an anxiety attack in the Four Seasons Mall in Dillets, and my daughter had to come get me from the food court. And I was telling her, she had gave me a Xanax to calm me down. And I was telling her after that, I was feeling relaxed and calm. And I said, this is what I need to cope out here. But my primary care doctor said that they wouldn't put me on that, and that they were very addictive. And I ended up getting on crack cocaine,
Okay.
thinking that that was going to help me cope, and it
Mhm.
didn't.
Yeah, I was about to ask you. Please tell me, make me understand how crack helped you cope, because I know goddamn well crack ain't help you cope. We know the crack ain't help
It
you cope.
didn't.
Yeah,
It
that just
didn't.
makes it that just makes it a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I was trying to
So
find something too, and it didn't. And
yeah,
I've been clean for 5 years now.
okay, all right. And so now, are we saying that that's those situations, or you just dealing with shit? Is that what pushed you towards drugs and getting locked into dealing with crack, or was it just, hey man, fuck it, I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm sitting there selling a little dope on the side. I'm sitting there getting my little bump along the way. What was really going on, in that situation?
No, I never sold crack cocaine, but I
Okay.
ended up getting on it, and I ended up leaving and going to Ohio, and I just left.
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
couldn't cope anymore. I just packed up and left.
Right. Right. And then what was in Ohio?
Nothing. It wasn't nothing. I ended up being homeless. I ended up being homeless out
Okay.
there, and I ended up catching another sentence, a little small sentence for receiving stolen property by false pretense, and
Mm.
um, they call it. I call myself shoplifting and got caught. And being that I ran in Ohio, they upgraded it to a robbery, and I had to do 4 years.
Wow. Okay. So, you're going in and out with different bouts with the law, because at this point, I mean, you trapped in the system. I mean, you really trapped in the system. And especially if you're telling me that, hey man, I'd much rather be sitting down in jail because I can't find my way out here in the world right now. I can't find a job. I can't pull ends together. I'm doing crazy shit. I'm shoplifting. I'm to eat. You
I
know,
was hungry.
yeah, man. Look, I understand. That's why I said I'm shoplifting to eat. I'm not. I didn't say you were shoplifting to goddamn just be fucking off. No, you shoplifting. You up in here taking some shit because you hungry. So you know how? Okay, and you're 5 years removed from um, coping with addiction. How, when you look back in retrospect, how is it that you've made it this far, present day, knowing all of the craziness that has actually taken place in your life? Because my partner Jay Shaw, he said, hey man, in his words, and this is one of the statements that's come across, you got to take that book, you got to sell it and make your money. Sell the sale of your books are going to make you some money. It's going to compensate you, your story, you telling your story, the 35 the 40 plus chapters that you have ready to go, and putting your story out to the world, because there's a whole hell of a lot more that we haven't unboxed in this hour. We've been talking for more than an hour, but there's so much
Yes,
more into your story, and there's a lot more questions that I want to ask you, right? So but I want to know how you've coped with this this issue since it all happened, man, and up to this point right now, present day, as you look back, you're like, God damn, I'd have been through some shit.
I don't hang with anybody. I'm a loner. I
Mm,
stay to myself. Even when I was incarcerated in Ohio, I stayed to myself. And one day my mom told me, seeing to take you farther than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. And I went
yeah.
to this program called Kairos, And she said it will make you pay and pay and pay. And I went to this program called Kairos, and man, it said how many people you want to forgive you and who you want to forgive. And you put it in this cup. And when you put it in this cup and they stirred it and it disappeared, man, a feeling came over me I never felt before. And I started crying, man. I was happy. And to this day, September 22nd, 24, I've been saved. And it's been a beautiful ride. And I
Okay.
wish that would have happened for me a long time ago, but it's never too late.
Okay. So how have you had an opportunity to come face to face with Rodney or Valena since your release?
No, I've never seen them.
No.
No, they've moved on. They've moved on. They don't live in this neighborhood anymore.
Okay. So is there anything that is compelling you to reach out to them, to talk to them? Because they were friends, Rodney and Valena, you know, the daughters and son of Miss Lundy, they were your friends at one time. Is there nothing that's compelling you to reach out to them and say, hey, man, I'm definitely sorry about what has taken place, but I'm standing on the fact that I did not do this. And I'm, you know, I'm not asking you for your forgiveness, but I want your forgiveness and knowing that I did not do this. I want, you know, is there anything that has taken place along those lines? Have you reached out to the family?
I was told not to, but if that
By
time ever
whom?
came,
By whom? By whom?
I would most definitely tell them face to face that I did not do this.
But who would tell you not to reach out to the families?
My lawyers, when I was on probation, I was told not to have any contact with them. And to this day, I think that still remains.
Okay. Okay. So
You know, because
I'm not your lawyer. I'm not an individual that is wanting to give you any type of advice, but I would think that would be a part of the working order to find some type of resolution mentally, not only on your behalf, but also with the family and friends that you grew up with, to make them understand. And maybe they thinking it's a harassment type of a situation or bringing up old memories. But if you did not do this, if you're standing on the fact that you did not do this, you know, and you're innocent and you're steady working to prove your innocence, I do believe that that would be a very crucial part of, hey, finding a way to make amends with the family so that they'll truly understand that, hey, man, this was not me. I don't know what I can do to show or prove, but this was not me.
I don't really know what I can do to even find them. I don't know where they at.
Right.
Since I've been home in 2015, I've never seen them again. I don't know if they're still in
Okay.
this state.
Okay. I got you.
But
I
that would
understand.
be,
I understand.
but I would be more than happy to tell them that.
Okay. Okay.
But I know that a lot of people believe in my innocence.
Right. Right. And I want everyone, because we have a lot of people that are on this live today that are paying attention to your story, to the situation, to our conversation. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is the first part of the conversation that Vega and I are going to be having, because we have a lot to unbox. We're just getting into scratching the surface of his life. But I wanted you guys to know the meat and potatoes of what Damen Vega has gone through in his life. I am not sitting here trying to sway you. I'm not trying to be biased in this situation, although I believe Vega. Let me start there. I believe Vega, but that has nothing to do with whether the state or Greensboro believes Vega. You see what I mean? Although he's released, he hasn't been exonerated and pardoned for the crimes that they say that he committed. And that's what we're working towards. That's what we're working towards. And thank you, Rob Lowe Escobar, Terry Allred, um, Shay, Shawan Jackson, or Shawanka, well, I can't even pronounce that name. Kels 1309. Shaniqua Farmer. What's going on, Shaniqua? What's going on, sister? That's Melvin Farmers people. Peter BMU, Melissa 285, Big 40 Trouble, Presnod, Darrell Skino, Kingy Frizzy, J Tammy 92. Welcome, all of you, for participating in the conversation. Jay Shaw, Dear Moore, Carolina, my girl Bree Melton. That's family right there. Everybody's paying attention to your conversation. I haven't even looked over at Twitch or at YouTube. So like I said, people are really tapping into what you're talking about, Damon. They're really interested in your story. We're gonna have to sit there and follow back up and open up some more about everything that's going on. If you don't have a problem with that.
Don't have a problem at all because I have a lot to say.
Yeah. So there again, also working with the book, getting your book squared away. You know, we're going to jump into making all of that happen, and getting you online with getting that coordinated. Because yes, just like Jonathan Shaw is saying, you know, we can sit there and fight for what's right and what has to happen with the judicial system, the justice system, the legal system. Okay, in terms of getting you compensated for being unjustly incarcerated for over 27 years. But we have to bring that whole story to the table so that they understand that there's something that went awry here. There's something corrupt that has taken place. I can't put my finger on it because I'm still trying to figure out how evidence just comes up missing. You know, especially when they can prove your innocence. You know,
yes, sir.
You already have the state lab reports. SBI has the reports on file. We have all of this information, and you can't utilize that. So the fact that we can't find old DNA and match old DNA with a possible person through APHIS and your DNA that was not found on the scene, no hair samples, none of these things. So clearly, you have a leg to stand on, but you're not being given an opportunity to really fight the good fight in your particular case right now. That's what I'm seeing.
You're right. I'm not able to fight, all because of that evidence.
That's right.
Being destroyed.
Right. So, and I told you, we know when we get into this, I'm going to ask you the tough questions. I'm going to ask you the stuff that nobody wants to ask you, but they have it on their mind. I told you that. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my question to you. Before we get off this thing and before we, you know, and then we're going to schedule another opportunity for us to get on to this platform and talk about it some more. But this is my question to you. Damen Vega, did you kill Miss Lundy?
No, I didn't. I did not do it.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, and I know you were giving me a response to what I was about to ask you in the initial part of it. So I know your response is no. We're going to continue to push forward with investigating your situation, digging deeper into what we need to do to find out what resources we need to pull together to prove your innocence, to gain your exoneration, and to gain your pardon through the state. You know, whether we have to petition the governor and go through all of those processes, whatever writs need to be put into place, and of course, make that connection with the Innocence Project and see where they are with the transcripts from your case, to see if we can't do a deep dive into getting you your just due from all of the atrocities that have been waged upon you and your person over the years. And I appreciate you, Damen, for coming on and talking with me. So we're going to have to schedule our next meeting. Is there anything that you want to tell the people anything that you want to talk to everybody about, because we got a lot of people online right now, man, listening to your story, listening to your situation before we get off of this thing and before we jump off into our next segment. And I'm probably going to do it sometime next week if you have some time. Okay.
Yes, I have time. I just
Okay.
want to say that I did not commit this crime. And
Right.
what is real crazy is that in the past, they've used state lab reports to convict people and put them on death row. But all of a sudden, when you have state lab reports that prove that I wasn't the killer, now they throw DNA up and say that's the only way that you can be freed and exonerated. So I want people to really look into this and to think about the injustice that has been done, even with the detective division in Greensboro, North Carolina, how when they knew that these fingerprints and palm prints didn't match to me, and they told them not to compare them to anybody else, that no other AFIS search would be needed. I want people to see the injustice that's going on and that's still going on.
Okay. All right. Well, Damen, Vega, we're with you. We're here to continue to pursue and hunt down the information so that justice can be served, so that you can be lifted from a burden that is going to walk with you until the courts tell you that we apologize for our mistake, and yes, you are truly exonerated and pardoned for the crimes that were waged against you back in 1988, 1999 when you were convicted. So I thank you, Mr. Vega, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, without question. We're gonna continue this thing. Like I said, it's a very interesting conversation. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot that we have to address. And like I say, man, I'm not coming to you as, this isn't softball. This isn't, the friend of a friend type thing. I'm not trying to get anybody to take any sides. We want the truth to come out because that's the only thing that matters. My personal emotions, my personal feelings about things, that don't mean a damn thing. We want the truth to come out, and you know what the truth is. And you've been standing on it over the 27 years that you were in prison. You maintained your innocence. You stated it from the beginning. Even in the if you know segment, the professor even stated that, hey, Vega's always stood on the fact that he was innocent. He's never sat there, and even when they offered him different pleas for reduced sentencing, he did not take it. He said, hey, man, I have to stand on what I believe. And so that in itself compels me to believe in your story, and talking to you, not just here on this platform, but talking to you on the telephone and getting to know you and getting to know your situation and your story, and you letting me know, because you told me straight up, you said, you can ask me whatever you want. Those were your words.
Anytime. Anytime.
Yeah. So when you don't have a problem with answering the questions, being vulnerable and open to what you've experienced, and what you've gone through, then that even more so gives me notice to know that, hey, man, this guy doesn't have anything to lie about. Hell, he already served 27 years. He'd gone through hell and high water, and the only thing he's looking at is, hey, man, how do I get myself in shape to move on in my life? Because it's been hell. There's nobody out there helping me. I'm trying to get jobs. I'm trying to do everything right. Shit, after 27 years and 5 years probation to fight for my freedom, and then the little ups and downs that I might have gone through personally, I've never gotten myself back into any types of trouble. And that's very uncommon, because because we know that the revisitism rate in terms of folks committing crimes once again, once they get out, it's like 85%. It's 85%.
Yes, it is.
You're going back to prison. It's like a revolving door. You're going back. So the fact that you've been out, you've been able to maintain, also gives me assurance to know that, hey man, we have a situation that we need to rectify. And this man has been done a disservice and in an unjust way based on what the system has put on his shoulders.
Hey, I'm glad that I have my mom because I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I do. I don't. I'm
Yeah,
glad that I
yeah,
have her.
that's right. That's right. That's good stuff, man. And big shout out to mom. Love goes out to the family. Love goes out to us from
Thank you.
here in the great state of Mississippi, to you all out there in Greensboro, North Carolina. Um, I need to thank my brother Terry Allred for connecting us and making this happen. And we're going to continue.
Thank you,
And like I
Terry,
said, next week
already.
we're going to sit there and follow up. Yeah, we're going to follow up with the conversation. We're going to dig deeper off
I'll be
into it.
here.
And let's start talking about, them 27 years, man, what that was like. What you had to go through sitting in
Man,
prison
that's
as an innocent man, having to deal with 27 years of incarceration.
most definitely. I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Okay. I sure appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Damen Vega. It's been a powerful, interesting, and an eye-opening conversation. I know I talk a lot, but I have a lot that I want to get out. I have a lot of questions that I have to ask my guests that come on, because we're searching for the truth. We're searching for the
Hey,
truth.
can I
It's
say
just
one
that
more
simple.
thing?
You can say whatever you need to say, Brother Vega.
Hey man, to anybody that has any of these young guys that's out here running in the streets and not listening to their parents and being rebellious, man, please listen to your family and stay off them streets. Because if you're out there late at night, you're doing nothing but leaving yourself open for the police to accuse you of something. So please stay in your house and stay around your family and stay around good people, man. Get off them streets, man. Please.
Okay. You heard it here first from a man that has gone through it in such a way that no one ever wants to go through it. It's one thing to actually commit a crime and, serve time for the crime that you committed, but um, to serve time for a crime that you didn't commit, 27 years of your life being taken away from you, um, that's downright just inhumane. That's really inhumane. And something has to be done to justify what Mr. Vega has gone through. And so we're working towards that, ladies and gentlemen. We're working towards that. And we're going to keep on digging deep off into this story and bringing you more information about it as we go along this journey with Mr. Damen Vega. Damen, I appreciate you, my brother. And I'll be
I
talking with
appreciate
you
you too,
again.
man.
Yes, indeed. I'll be talking with you again sometime next week. We'll jump back on again next week. All right.
Most definitely, Galen.
Okay, good stuff. And as always, beautiful people, y'all know with us, man, it's about health, wealth, and wellness. Stay down. What's good, beautiful people? It's your main man, Big G. And this is my personal invite to all of you to join me on Industry Talk on the Prime Time Network daily at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, where I get into great conversations with entrepreneurs, artists, industry leaders, you name it, we bring it to the table. So make sure you tap in with us, lock us in, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And we stream on all major platforms. And be sure to visit us at gemsitpublishing.com. This is Industry Talk. Let's get into it.
Motion.